The sun was setting behind the rows of crumbling houses in a quiet, forgotten corner of Detroit. A skinny teenager named Ryan Monroe walked slowly down the cracked pavement, his hands stained with oil from fixing bicycles all day. His shirt was damp with sweat, and the only thing in his empty pocket was a crumpled-up candy wrapper. Ryan lived with his mother, Cynthia, in a small two-room apartment above an old laundromat. Cynthia worked long hours at her sewing machine, stitching dresses for local customers just to keep the lights on. Ryan, on the other hand, spent his days running odd jobs, delivering newspapers in the morning, fixing punctured tires in the afternoon, and helping load boxes at the grocery store at night. Despite the weight of poverty, his eyes still held the quiet spark of dreams. More than anything, Ryan wanted to buy his mother a proper home. A place where rain didn't leak through the ceiling, and where the winter winds couldn't sneak in through the cracked walls. But right now, even a warm blanket was a luxury. Still, hope refused to leave him. One chilly evening, as Ryan trudged home from a long day's work, something unusual caught his eye. At the far end of the alley near their building, a soft, silver-blue glow shimmered against the bricks. He squinted. Was it a broken streetlight? Or maybe a reflection from someone's car? As he got closer, he froze. There, sitting silently against the alley wall, was a girl in a flowing white dress. Her skin was pale as moonlight, and her eyes were a deep ocean blue, filled with a sorrow so heavy it felt like the air itself had stopped moving. Ryan's heart skipped. He had never seen anyone like her in the neighborhood. She didn't belong here. She looked like she had stepped out of a dream. Gulping down his nerves, he stepped forward. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked gently. The girl looked up slowly. For a moment, Ryan thought she might not speak at all. But then she whispered, "It's cold tonight." Without thinking, Ryan took off the thin scarf around his neck, the one his mother had knit for him, and draped it gently over her shoulders. "Here. It's not much, but it'll help." A faint smile crossed her lips. It was the first trace of warmth on her face. "What's your name?" she asked. "Ryan," he replied. "And you?" She hesitated. Then, in a voice so soft it nearly vanished in the wind, she said, "My name is Leora." That night, as Ryan sat across from his mother at the dinner table, sharing a meager meal of bread and soup, Cynthia looked at him with curiosity. "You look different today," she said, her eyes narrowing. "Something happened?" Ryan smiled. "I just helped someone. I don't know. It felt good." Cynthia nodded slowly. "Remember, son, we may not have much, but kindness is the one thing we can always afford." Ryan didn't sleep much that night. His mind kept drifting back to Leora. Who was she? Why did she look so lost? And why did he feel as though her eyes had reached inside his very soul? The next morning, Ryan woke earlier than usual. Something inside him pulled him back toward that alley, toward the mysterious girl with the ocean blue eyes. He skipped his usual morning paper route and made his way straight to the same spot. And there she was, Leora, sitting exactly where he had left her, wrapped in his scarf. But something had changed. The sorrow in her eyes had softened, replaced by a strange glimmer of hope. "You came back," she said softly, her voice barely above the hum of the city waking up. "I guess I wanted to make sure you were okay," Ryan replied, shifting his weight nervously. "Do you need help? A place to go?" Leora looked down. "I'm not from here, Ryan. Not just this city. I mean, I'm not from this world." Ryan blinked. "What?" She took a breath. "I know it sounds crazy. But I'm not human. I'm something else. A being from a world far beyond yours. In my world, we're called Ethereants. We're not supposed to interact with humans, but something drew me here." Ryan stared at her. It sounded insane. Completely unreal. And yet he believed her. There was something otherworldly about her from the start, something in her voice, her glow, her questions. "So why are you here?" he asked. Leora looked into his eyes. "Because I broke the law of my world. I helped a human child once. She was lost in the forest, crying, scared. I couldn't leave her. I returned her home. But for that, I was banished. Ethereans are forbidden from helping your kind. Ryan sat down beside her, absorbing every word. You were punished for doing the right thing? He asked in disbelief. Yes, she whispered. Since then, I've been trapped between worlds. And the only way I can return home is if a human helps me from their heart, without wanting anything in return. That act of pure kindness would release the bond that holds me here. Ryan looked away, deep in thought. So, why me? Liara smiled softly. Because you didn't ask me who I was, where I came from, or what I could offer. You just gave me your scarf. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city buzzed faintly around them, but in that alley it was quiet. Peaceful. From that day forward, their bond grew stronger. Ryan introduced Liara to his mother, and surprisingly, Cynthia welcomed her like a daughter. The three of them shared meals, laughter, and stories. Liara helped Cynthia with sewing, sat with Ryan on the rooftop to watch stars, and even began reading books about human life. But she never asked for anything. Not food. Not shelter. Nothing. Instead, she spent her days helping others in the neighborhood, fixing things quietly, comforting crying children, offering warm smiles to the lonely. And in return, the people began to notice a change in Ryan. He smiled more. Walked lighter. Worked harder. There was a light in his eyes that hadn't been there before. But deep inside, Ryan knew the truth. He was falling in love with someone who didn't belong to his world. And the day would come when he might have to let her go. What he didn't know was that this bond, so pure, so real, was awakening something powerful within Liara. A part of her she had almost forgotten. And with it came the storm. 3 weeks passed. The neighborhood, once worn down and forgotten, now felt just a little more alive. Children played longer outside. The elderly smiled more. And Ryan, he felt as if for the first time, he belonged somewhere beyond struggle. That place was not a location, but a person, Liara. But the calm wouldn't last. One morning, the sky darkened faster than usual. Thunder rolled through the clouds like angry footsteps. Cynthia stepped out onto the porch, looking worried. Ryan, something's coming. I can feel it in my bones, she said, clutching the cross around her neck. Ryan had felt it too. The heaviness in the air. The static. Something unnatural. That afternoon, the river near the neighborhood swelled without warning. A heavy rainstorm upstream had sent a surge of water rushing down. The streets flooded fast. People screamed. Panic took hold. Ryan! Cynthia shouted, grabbing what few valuables she could. We need to leave now. Ryan turned toward the alley. Liara, she's still there. Ignoring his mother's protests, he ran through ankle-deep water toward the spot where he first saw her. There she was, standing calm amidst the chaos, her white dress soaked and clinging to her skin. Yet her expression was serene. Liara! Ryan shouted. We have to go. Liara shook her head. No. This is the moment, Ryan. This is what I was meant to face. Lightning cracked across the sky. She stepped closer to him, her eyes glowing faintly now. Ryan, if you help me now, truly help me, you'll unlock the final bond that holds me here. But it will come at a cost. Ryan's breath caught. What cost? She hesitated, then whispered. You'll have to give up the one thing you hold dearest. Ryan's mind raced. What could that mean? His mother? His dreams? His only blanket in the winter? But he didn't ask. He just said the only thing that mattered. If it saves you, and if it helps all of us, I'll do it. Liara closed her eyes. Suddenly, the wind howled like a beast. Rain swirled into a vortex around them. The water flooding the streets froze in place. And then, slowly, it began to recede, like someone had pressed rewind on nature itself. The storm cleared. People stepped out of their homes in disbelief. No one could explain what had happened. But in the middle of the street, Ryan stood, breathless, soaked, and silent. Leora's hand slipped out of his. And for a second, he thought she might vanish right then and there. But she didn't. Instead, she looked at him, her eyes welling with tears. That wasn't the final test," she whispered. "There's still one more." Ryan's heart sank. "Then what was this?" She touched his chest lightly. "This was your heart speaking. But the final test will ask something even harder." She didn't say what. And in the days that followed, Ryan began to realize, when love is real, the hardest part isn't falling. It's knowing when to let go. The days after the flood brought a strange quiet to the neighborhood. The sun returned, the streets dried, and life moved on, but something in Ryan's heart had shifted. Leora seemed different too. Though she still smiled and helped Cynthia with sewing or read stories to kids, there was a shadow in her gaze, a silence behind her voice. She spent long moments staring at the sky, as if waiting for a sign. One evening, as the orange glow of sunset settled over the rooftops, Ryan sat with Leora on the porch. They hadn't spoken much all day. The silence between them was gentle, but heavy. "I keep thinking about that night," Ryan said finally. "When everything stopped. It was like the world listened to you." "It listened to you," Leora corrected softly. "You were the one who chose to give. That's why the world answered." Ryan shook his head. "I don't get it. You said there's one more test. What is it, Leora? What else do I need to give?" Leora turned her face toward the fading sun. Her voice trembled. "My kind, the Ethereans, we cannot stay in the human world unless we bind ourselves to it with something permanent. Something unselfish. A sacrifice of love." Ryan stared at her. "You mean?" She nodded. "I've stayed because of you. Because your kindness tethered me here. But to return home, to become whole again, I need you to set me free. Truly free. To let go of me. Entirely." Ryan felt the ground shift beneath him. "You want me to forget you?" "No," she said quickly, shaking her head. "Never. I only ask that you release me from the bond your heart created. The friendship, the love, the hope, all of it. If you hold on to me, I stay here in between worlds. Neither yours nor mine." Ryan stood up. "That's not fair." "I know." He clenched his fists. "So, you're asking me to say goodbye. I'm asking you to do the one thing that only the strongest souls can do," she whispered. "To love someone enough to let them go." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He sat beside his mother as she sewed late into the evening, her hands working on muscle memory while her eyes stayed on her son. "You're quiet," she said. "Quieter than usual." Ryan finally spoke. "Mom, if someone you love needed to go, would you let them?" Cynthia stopped sewing. "Love isn't about keeping someone. It's about giving them what they need, even if it breaks you." Ryan lowered his head. "Even if you never see them again?" She put her hand over his. "Especially then." The next morning, the neighborhood gathered in the square. A wealthy land developer had arrived. He offered new homes, jobs, and money to rebuild the area, but only if the families would leave their old homes behind. Excitement rippled through the crowd. Ryan looked at his mother, who held her breath as the man spoke. Her eyes fell on their small apartment window, the same place where Ryan had grown up, where her husband had passed, where their memories still lived. "I can't leave this place, Ryan," she whispered. "This is home." Ryan looked at her, then at Leora, who stood at the edge of the crowd, watching everything. He understood. Letting go wasn't just about saying goodbye. It was about choosing someone else's happiness over your own. Later that day, Ryan found Leora on the rooftop. "I won't go with the others," he said. "I'll stay. For her." Leora nodded slowly. "Then you've passed the final test." And just like that, the wind shifted. The air felt lighter. And something in Leora's eyes began to glow, not with magic, but with peace. That night, the stars seemed brighter than ever. Ryan sat alone on the rooftop, his legs tucked to his chest, watching the sky as the city below settled into sleep. He knew it was coming, knew this quiet night would be the last he'd spend with her. He didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, he just waited. Moments later, the door behind him creaked. Leora stepped out, wrapped in his mother's old quilt, her bare feet silent against the rooftop's concrete. "I knew I'd find you here," she said softly. Ryan nodded. "I didn't want to say goodbye in front of everyone." Leora sat beside him, her hand brushing his. "I don't want to say goodbye at all." There was silence between them. Not awkward, not cold, just still, like the world was holding its breath. Then Ryan asked, "What happens now?" Leora looked up at the stars. "Now I go back. My powers have returned. My place is waiting. But this time, I go back different. Because of you." He swallowed hard. "And what about me?" "You go forward," she said gently. "You keep being who you are. The boy who gives without asking, who listens when no one else does, who sees light even in broken places. That's your power." Ryan shook his head. "But I'm not ready to let go." Leora smiled sadly. "No one ever is." A gentle wind swept across the rooftop. In the distance, a dog barked, and a train rumbled on the tracks. The world continued on, unaware of the two souls saying goodbye in the shadows. "I wish things were different," Ryan whispered. "I don't," Leora replied. "Because if they were, we might never have met." She reached into the folds of her quilt, and pulled out a small glass pendant, glowing faintly with blue light. She placed it in his palm. "This is part of me," she said. "Keep it close. It won't bring me back, but it will remind you that I was real. That this was real." Ryan looked down at it, tears finally burning his eyes. "Will I ever see you again?" "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But I'll always see you." She leaned forward, kissed his forehead gently, then stood up. And then it happened. As the first light of dawn cracked over the horizon, Leora's form began to shimmer. Her hair lifted in the breeze. Her white dress fluttered like it was part of the wind itself. "I'll miss you, Ryan Monroe," she whispered. And with a final glowing breath, she was gone. No thunder, no flash of light. Just an empty space where magic had once sat. Ryan stayed there long after the sun rose. He held the pendant tight to his chest and whispered, "I'll miss you too, Leora." But even in the ache, he felt something new bloom inside him, not emptiness, but purpose. Love hadn't left him. It had simply transformed. Weeks passed. The city moved on. Ryan returned to his routines, helping at the shop, repairing bikes, delivering groceries, but something in him had changed. He was no longer the boy who only dreamed of a better life. He had become the boy who built one, not just for himself, but for everyone around him. The neighbors noticed. "Ryan Monroe," they'd say. "He's got something in him. Something different." He fixed a broken porch for Mrs. Ellis, helped Coach Drew organize food for the local kids, and taught younger boys how to repair old bicycles. He never asked for payment. His payment was in smiles, in thank yous, in watching people believe in themselves again. His mother, Cynthia, watched quietly. One night, as they sat on their porch under a soft rain, she turned to him. "You okay?" she asked. Ryan nodded. "Yeah. Just thinking." "About her?" He looked out at the street. "Always." Cynthia didn't press further. She just reached out and held his hand. "Whatever she was, wherever she is, she brought out the best in you." Ryan smiled gently. "She didn't change me, Mom. She reminded me who I already was." Inside his room, the small pendant Leora had left sat on his nightstand. Sometimes it flickered with light, as if it remembered too. But Ryan never tried to understand it. He just kept it close, a reminder not of magic, but of meaning. One evening, a little girl named Alana came knocking on his door. Her eyes were red. "My mom's sick," she said. "We don't have anyone else." Ryan didn't hesitate. He grabbed his coat, a few supplies, and walked with her through the cold to their apartment. He sat with her mother, made her soup, arranged a visit from a local nurse, and left food in their kitchen. Before he left, Alana tugged at his sleeve. "You're like a real-life superhero," she whispered. Ryan smiled and bent down. "Nah," he said. "Just someone who had a really good teacher." That night, as he sat under the stars again, he whispered into the sky. "I hope you're happy, Leora. Wherever you are." A breeze passed, soft and warm. And though no one else could hear it, Ryan felt it in his chest, a voice not of words, but of presence. "You made me proud." He closed his eyes and smiled. Because he knew now, truly and deeply, that real magic wasn't in powers or spells. It was in sacrifice. In kindness. In the quiet, unseen moments when a person chose love over self. And in that, Ryan Monroe had become more than a boy from a forgotten neighborhood. He had become a light. A light that never dimmed.